Welcome to session 3 of our Better Sleep program. In session 2, we talked about a number of factors that can affect our sleep and ways of improving our sleeping pattern. If you managed to introduce some helpful changes into your lifestyle or your evening routine, that's great. If you didn't, don't get discouraged. Make this a goal for next week. In this session, we will focus on re-establishing a regular sleep pattern using information from a sleep diary. You will remember from session 1 that everyone's sleep needs differ and that the amount of sleep we get decreases as we grow older. People who suffer from insomnia have a very irregular sleep pattern, and it can be very difficult to know how much sleep they are actually getting. Let's try to work out the average amount of sleep you are getting per night. Using this average, we can draw up a sleep schedule that will help you begin to sleep more soundly through the night. If you want to calculate the average amount of sleep you get per night, you need to have your sleep diary handy. First, make sure all the boxes in the diary are complete. The question in the diary that asks you to record how long did you actually sleep for each night refers to the total time you spent in bed that night minus the time it took you to fall asleep minus the time you were awake at night minus the time it took you to get up. You should be able to find all the information you need to answer this question in your diary. Once you have completed all the boxes, you can calculate the average amount of sleep you get per night. In order to do this, you need to first add up all the sleep you've had in a week and then divide it by 7. You might want to stop the video at this point and look at worksheet 3.1, which you can find on our website. Worksheet 3.1 explains step by step how to calculate your average time asleep per night. Having worked out how much sleep you're getting on average per night, it is quite likely that the number you got is smaller than you would like it to be. Try not to worry about this. The important first step is to get you sleeping soundly every night, and then we can start to gradually increase the number of hours you get every night. Now you know how much sleep you get on average, you can calculate how efficient your sleep is. Sleep efficiency is a measure of the proportion of time that we spend in bed actually sleeping. For example, if your sleep efficiency is 60%, it means that you're asleep only 60% of time spent in bed. Knowing how efficient your sleep is will help you to spend less time in bed not sleeping. In order to calculate your sleep efficiency, you need to divide the total time asleep in a week by the total time in bed in a week and multiply your answer by 100%. You might want to stop the video at this point and look at worksheet 3.2, which you can find on our website. Worksheet 3.2 explains step by step how to calculate your sleep efficiency. Now you know how efficient your sleep is, we want to find a way of helping you get your average amount of sleep each night without you spending a lot of time tossing and turning in bed. The idea is to make your sleep as efficient as possible. You want your sleep efficiency to reach around 90%, which means that you want to spend 90% of your time in bed sleeping. So what can you do to increase your sleep efficiency? If you want to keep your sleep efficiency as high as possible, you need to limit the amount of time you spend in bed each night to the average amount of sleep you get each night. In order to do this, you first need to decide what time you want to get up each morning. Knowing what time you want to get up each morning will help you establish a routine and will stop you from drifting back to sleep. It will also help you to regulate your body's internal clock. Remember that we are programmed to be asleep during the night when it's dark and to be awake and active during the daytime when it's light. Once you decide on your rising time, you want to get up at this time every day, including weekends. You might want to stop the video at this point and look at worksheet 3.3, which you can find on our website. Worksheet 3.3 encourages you to decide on your rising time. Now you have decided what time to get up each morning, you want to decide what time to go to bed each night. Importantly, you want to go to bed at this time only when you feel sleepy tired. In order to work out what time you should go to bed, subtract your average time asleep per night from your rising time. For example, imagine John, who struggles with insomnia, spending a lot of time tossing and turning in bed before falling asleep. John decided to change some of his bedtime habits as he wants to make his sleep more efficient. John worked out that he gets 6 hours of sleep on average per night. John also thought about the most optimal time for him to get up, and he decided on 7:30 a.m. If John wants to make his sleep more efficient, spend in bed no more than 6 hours and get up at 7:30, he should not go to bed before 1:30 a.m. New routine will help John to limit the amount of time he spends in bed not sleeping and will make John's sleep more efficient. Importantly, some people might get less sleep than John. If you find that your average amount of time asleep each night is less than 5 hours, leave yourself a minimum of 5 hours you can spend in bed. For example, if you are someone who sleeps 4 hours on average per night and you decided you want to get up at 7 a.m., make sure you do not go to bed before 2 a.m. and go to bed only when sleepy tired. At this point, you might want to stop the video and look at worksheet 3.4, which you can find on our website. Worksheet 3.4 will help you to decide on your optimal bedtime. If you now step back and look at the schedule you have drawn up, it can look a bit scary. It may seem that you're committing to getting up very early in the morning or that you're going to have to stay up very late at night. Limiting the amount of time you spend in bed can be difficult. You might naturally worry about becoming even more sleep deprived. This may indeed happen. You might find yourself more sleepy than ever before, but only in the short term. If that happens, don't get discouraged. Getting sleepy at the right time is a sign of making a progress. When we become sleep deprived, our need for sleep increases. As our sleep debt builds up, our drive to sleep becomes stronger. Importantly, a new routine will help you to break unhelpful habits and will allow you to establish a regular and healthy sleep pattern. Try to follow your new rising time and your new bedtime each day over the next several weeks. If you find after several weeks of new routine that you're sleeping for 90% of the time you spend in bed, you can try to increase the amount of time you spend in bed by 15 minutes. If you do this, try to stay with the new pattern for at least a week. Taking your time when introducing changes to your routine is really important. Then, after a week of trying out the new pattern, you can increase the time you spend in bed by further 15 minutes, but only if you find you're asleep 90% of the time you spend in bed. If that's the case, you might want to get up 15 minutes later or go to bed 15 minutes earlier. You can gradually keep increasing the time you spend in bed until you're getting as much sleep as you need. As you do this, it is important to make sure your sleep efficiency is always around 90%. If you find your sleep efficiency decreases, then return to the earlier schedule until your efficiency once again reaches 90%. If you want to calculate your sleep efficiency as weeks go by, you might want to go back to exercise 3.2. It is important to pick the right time to introduce your new sleep schedule, as you will probably feel extra tired for the first few days of it. It might not be a good idea to start it the day before the job interview or a long drive, you might want to consider starting your new routine at a weekend when you don't have much on or when you have a holiday from work. Your new schedule should involve getting up at your rising time, not going to bed before your bedtime, going to bed only if you feel sleepy tired, and getting out of bed if you're not asleep within 15 to 20 minutes, repeating this as necessary throughout the night and not allowing yourself to nap. If you follow your new schedule for a couple of weeks, you're likely to find that you fall asleep much quicker than usual and you do not wake up as often as you did before. At this point, you might want to stop the video and look at worksheet 3.5, which you can find on our website. Worksheet 3.5 encourages you to think about your new routine. It can be really helpful to plan ahead. Old habits die hard and changes are easier to introduce if we have planned in advance how to overcome any obstacles we might come across. It is important, therefore, to think about how you're going to occupy all that extra time that you used to spend lying in bed tossing and turning. You want to find something relaxing to do, like listening to music, reading a magazine, doing word puzzles, knitting, or sewing. You might also want to practice relaxation techniques we talked about in the session 2. It is important to make sure that whatever you do, it is not too stimulating for your body or your brain. You do not want to become more awake as you do the activities you choose to do. Try to plan ahead and expect to spend a fair amount of time out of bed for the first few nights at least. You might want to keep the heating on in one room if you can. Prepare a hot, milky drink before going to bed and leave it ready in a flask, or borrow some extra books from the library. Importantly, you also need to work out how to ensure that you get out of bed at your rising time. You might want to invest in an extra alarm clock or ask your partner or a friend to wake you up. If you feel sleepy during the day, standing up, doing something, giving your friend a call, or going for a walk can help to keep you awake. The hardest thing of all can be to keep your motivation up. Changing habits is never easy, and a new sleeping routine requires a lot of changes that are difficult to introduce. After all, no one wants to get out of bed in the middle of the night or get up really early at the weekend. What is more, you might have tried to make changes helpful to your sleep in the past, and you might have not succeeded. If that's the case, you might find it even harder to persevere now. If you dwell on these experiences, you're more likely to give up and even not try. Instead, you can replace unhelpful thoughts like, I am never going to get a good night's sleep, this will never work, with helpful thoughts like, this is tough, but I'm going to stick with it, it will be worth it in the end. If you think that way, you will be more likely to give it a go. Have a look at worksheet 3.6, which you can find on our website. Worksheet 3.6 encourages you to think about your readiness to introduce changes to your routine. In this session, we talked about sleep efficiency and ways to establish a healthy sleep pattern. In the next session, we will talk about the techniques that can help us to deal with our racing thoughts when we can't fall off to sleep. At the end of this session, we would like to encourage you to introduce your new routine over the next several weeks. If possible, continue filling in your sleep diary. It will help you to keep your sleep efficient. Also, adjust your new routine if needed.